number the last rain of November. Asterisk, asterisk, 0015 opening hook. Asterisk, asterisk. It was November 14th when the rain started. By midnight, Mark Ellison was gone. His truck sat empty on the bridge, keys still in the ignition, door wide open. His wife called 911 at 11:47 p.m., her voice shaking through the static. "He's gone," she whispered. "He just walked into the storm." 6 months later, a letter arrived at his brother's house, written in Mark's handwriting, postmarked from a town 3 states away. The ink was still fresh. Asterisk, asterisk, 015 330, setting up the mystery. Asterisk, asterisk. What really happened to Mark Ellison that night in Bryan County, Oregon? Did he disappear, or did someone make him vanish? Mark was 48 years old, a high school math teacher who coached Little League on weekends and never missed Sunday dinner with his brother. His wife, Claire, was a nurse at the county hospital, known for her steady hands and calm voice, even in emergencies. They had been married for 22 years. Neighbors described them as quiet, dependable, the kind of couple you'd trust to watch your house while you were away. But something changed in the weeks before that storm. Mark had been receiving phone calls late at night, calls he'd take outside in the cold, pacing the driveway with his shoulders hunched. Claire told a coworker she thought someone was following her home from work. She couldn't explain why she felt that way, just a feeling, like eyes in the rearview mirror. And then there was the voicemail Mark left for his brother 2 days before he disappeared. His voice was tight, careful. "If anything happens to me," he said, "check the shed." Nobody knew what he meant, until the rain came. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Asterisk, asterisk, 33012. The backstory. Asterisk, asterisk. To understand what happened that night, you have to go back to the summer. Mark and Claire had just celebrated their anniversary at a small cabin by the lake, the same one they'd gone to every year since they got married. There are photos from that trip. Mark grilling burgers, Claire reading on the dock, both of them smiling in the golden light. It looked perfect, but underneath, cracks were forming. Mark had been struggling with money. The school district had cut his hours, and Claire's shifts at the hospital weren't enough to cover the mortgage and their daughter's college tuition. Mark started taking odd jobs, tutoring kids after school, fixing cars on the weekends. He was tired all the time, his eyes shadowed, his jokes coming slower. Claire noticed. She asked him once if everything was okay, and he nodded, but he didn't meet her eyes. Around late October, Mark started acting differently. He'd leave the house without explanation, sometimes for hours. He'd come back with dirt on his boots, his jacket damp even when it wasn't raining. Claire asked him where he'd been, and he'd say he was clearing his head, walking the trails near the old quarry. But one night, a neighbor saw his truck parked outside an abandoned building on the edge of town, the old textile mill that had been shut down for 30 years. When Claire confronted him, he got defensive. "I'm handling something," he told her. "You have to trust me." She didn't push it. Maybe she should have. Around the same time, Claire's coworker, a woman named Beth, noticed Claire seemed distracted at work. Beth said Claire kept checking her phone, glancing at the parking lot through the break room window. One day, Beth asked if everything was all right, and Claire said something strange. She said, "Do you ever feel like the past doesn't stay buried?" Beth didn't know what she meant. She still doesn't. On November 12th, 2 days before the storm, Mark's brother received that voicemail. Mark's voice was low, almost a whisper. "I found something," he said. "I don't know what to do with it yet, but if anything happens, check the shed. You'll know what I mean." His brother tried calling back, but Mark didn't answer. The next day, Mark went to work like normal. He taught his classes, ate lunch in the staff room, stayed late to grade papers. One of his students said he seemed distracted, kept staring out the window at the clouds rolling in. That night, he came home, kissed Claire on the forehead, and made spaghetti for dinner. They ate in silence, the rain starting to tap against the windows. Around 10 p.m., Mark stood up, grabbed his jacket, and told Claire he'd be right back. "Where are you going?" she asked. He didn't answer. He just walked out the door. Asterisk, asterisk, 12:22, the night of the disappearance. Asterisk, asterisk. The rain that night was relentless. It came down in sheets, flooding the roads, turning the ditches into rivers. Claire said she waited for Mark by the window, watching the headlights of his truck disappear down the road. She thought he was going to the gas station, maybe getting milk or cigarettes, something small. But an hour passed, then two. She called his phone. It went straight to voicemail. By 11:30, she was frantic. She got in her car and drove the route he would have taken. Wipers on, full speed, visibility almost zero. She found his truck at 11:42 p.m., parked on the shoulder of the old bridge that crosses the Nehalem River. The driver's side door was open, rain pooling on the seat. The keys were in the ignition, the engine still warm. His phone was on the passenger seat, screen cracked, no missed calls. Claire called 911. The dispatcher asked her to stay in her car, but she couldn't. She got out, shouting Mark's name into the storm, her voice swallowed by the thunder. She walked to the edge of the bridge and looked down at the churning water below. She said later she thought she saw something, a shape in the current. But when the lightning flashed, there was nothing. The police arrived at midnight. They searched the bridge, the riverbanks, the woods on either side of the road. They brought dogs, flashlights, a dive team by morning. They found nothing. No body, no footprints leading away from the truck, just mud, rain, and the dark water rushing underneath. But there was something. A detective named Sarah Mullins noticed it first. There were muddy boot prints leading from the truck, not toward the river, but back toward the road, heading in the direction of the Ellison house. They were fresh. The rain hadn't washed them away yet. Size 11, the same size Mark wore. But here's the thing. The prints stopped abruptly about 50 yards from the truck, right in the middle of the asphalt, as if whoever made them had simply ceased to exist. Detective Mullins asked Claire if she'd seen anyone else on the road that night. Claire hesitated. Then she said no. But her hands were shaking. The search continued for 10 days. Volunteers from town combed the forest, checked abandoned buildings, dragged sections of the river. The local news ran stories every night. Beloved teacher missing after storm. Community rallies as hope fades. Mark's photo was everywhere, his kind eyes staring out from telephone poles and grocery store bulletin boards. Claire did interviews, pleading for anyone with information to come forward. She looked exhausted, her face pale, her voice barely above a whisper. People felt sorry for her. Some brought casseroles, others offered prayers. But a few people started to wonder, why had Mark left that night? What was he doing at the bridge? And why did Claire seem so distant? On day 12, the police found something in Mark's shed, the one he'd mentioned in the voicemail. It was a metal lockbox, buried under a tarp and a pile of old tools. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, all of the same woman. Dark hair, sharp features, a medical ID badge clipped to her scrubs. Her name was Naomi Garrison, and according to official records, she'd been missing since 2009. Asterisk, asterisk, 22:35-0, the investigation deepens. Asterisk, asterisk. Naomi Garrison disappeared 16 years ago from the same hospital where Claire worked. She was a respiratory therapist, 29 years old, engaged to be married. One night in March, she left work after her shift and never made it home. Her car was found in the hospital parking lot, purse still inside, keys missing. The case went cold within months. No suspects, no witnesses, no body. So why did Mark have her photos? Detective Mullins started digging. She found more in the lockbox. A second phone, one Claire said she'd never seen before. The call log showed dozens of outgoing calls to a single number, registered under the name N. Garrison. But Naomi Garrison had been dead for over a decade, at least. That's what everyone assumed. When Mullins traced the number, it led to a burner phone purchased in 2023, just 8 months before Mark disappeared. Someone had been using Naomi's name. Mullins brought Claire in for questioning. Claire sat across from her in the small interrogation room, hands folded in her lap, eyes red from crying. Mullins asked her directly, "Did you know Naomi Garrison?" Claire's face went blank. Then she nodded. "We worked together," she said quietly. "A long time ago." "Did Mark know her?" Mullins asked. Claire hesitated. "I don't think so. I never mentioned her." "Then why did he have her photos?" Claire didn't answer. Mullins pressed harder. She showed Claire the phone records, the maps Mark had drawn of the old textile mill, the notes he'd written in cramped handwriting. "He was investigating her disappearance," Mullins said. "Why?" Claire's voice cracked. "I don't know." But Mullins didn't believe her. The evidence was piling up. Financial records showed Mark had withdrawn $5,000 in cash 2 weeks before he vanished. Claire claimed she didn't know about it. A gas station clerk came forward, saying he'd seen Mark buying a prepaid phone and a road map the day before the storm. And then there was the life insurance policy, $250,000, with Claire as the sole beneficiary. She hadn't claimed it. When reporters asked why, she said it felt wrong, like admitting he was gone. The town started to turn. Whispers in grocery store aisles, side eyes at the pharmacy. People who had brought casseroles stopped calling. Someone spray-painted "liar" on the Ellison's mailbox. Claire stopped leaving the house. Her lawyer advised her not to speak to the press, but the pressure kept building. 3 months after Mark disappeared, the district attorney announced they were treating the case as a potential homicide. Claire was named a person of interest. She wasn't arrested, but the implication was clear. The media descended. True crime podcasts dissected every detail. Armchair detectives on social media built elaborate theories. Some said Claire had killed Mark for the insurance money. Others thought Mark had staged his own disappearance, and Claire was covering for him. A few believed something darker, that Naomi Garrison's disappearance and Mark's were connected, that whoever took Naomi had come back. Then, in late April, a hiker found something in the woods near the old quarry, a ring, small, silver, with an engraved inscription, "Forever, J." It had belonged to Naomi Garrison. Her fiancé confirmed it. The discovery reignited the investigation. Cadaver dogs were brought in. The area searched inch by inch. They found nothing else. No body, no clothing. Just the ring, sitting on a bed of moss like it had been placed there deliberately. Detective Mullins went back to Claire. "He found the ring, didn't he?" she said. Claire stared at the floor. Then, finally, she broke. "Yes," she whispered. "He found it in a locker at the school, an old locker that hadn't been used in years. He thought it was connected to Naomi. He was trying to figure out what happened to her." "Why didn't you tell us this before?" Mullins asked. Claire's voice was barely audible. "Because I was scared." "Of what?" Claire looked up, tears streaming down her face. "Of what he found. Asterisk, asterisk, 35 to 0, 48 to 0, the twist. Asterisk, asterisk. What Mark found, hidden in the pages of an old yearbook in that same locker, was a photograph. It showed 5 people standing outside the hospital late at night, cigarettes in hand, laughing. One of them was Naomi Garrison. Another was Claire. The others were hospital staff, people Mark didn't recognize. But there was something else in the photo. In the background, barely visible, a man standing in the shadows, watching them. Mark had circled his face in red pen. He'd written one word next to it. "Him!" Detective Mullins showed the photo to Claire. "Who is he?" she asked. Claire's hands trembled. His name was David Calloway. He was a maintenance worker at the hospital. He was obsessed with Naomi. He'd leave notes in her locker, follow her to her car. She reported him twice, but nothing was ever done. Then he quit, just disappeared, a week before Naomi went missing. "Where is he now?" Mullins asked. Claire shook her head. "I don't know. No one does. After Naomi disappeared, I tried to find him, but it was like he never existed. No forwarding address, no social media, nothing." Mullins ran David Calloway through every database she had. Nothing. No arrests, no employment records, no death certificate. He was a ghost. But Mark had found something. In his notes, he'd written an address, a rural property, about 40 miles outside of town, deep in the mountains. Mullins and a team of officers drove out there on a cold morning in May. The property was overgrown, the cabin half collapsed, windows broken. Inside, they found remnants of a life, old furniture, rusted tools, a mattress on the floor. And in the corner, under a pile of rotting boards, they found a trapdoor. What they found underneath would change everything. It was a small room, concrete walls, no windows. There were chains bolted to the floor, scratches on the walls, desperate, frantic. And in the dirt, half buried, they found a medical ID badge. It belonged to Naomi Garrison. Forensic teams spent weeks processing the scene. They found DNA evidence, hair fibers, traces of blood. It matched Naomi. But there was more. They found a second set of DNA, unidentified, male. It didn't match Mark. It didn't match anyone in the system. David Calloway had vanished and taken his secrets with him. But the evidence confirmed what Mark had suspected. Naomi Garrison had been held in that room, and she had died there. The case was officially reopened as a homicide. Naomi's family finally had answers. Incomplete, painful, but answers. But the question remained, where was Mark? If he'd found this place, if he'd uncovered the truth, why didn't he go to the police? Why did he disappear? Detective Mullins believed Mark had confronted someone who didn't want the truth to come out. Maybe David Calloway was still alive. Maybe Mark had gotten too close. Claire was cleared of suspicion. But the damage was done. She moved away, left Briar County, started over somewhere quiet, somewhere without rain. She never spoke publicly about Mark again. The case went cold. Until the letter arrived. Asterisk, asterisk, 48 to 0, 58 to 0. The final twist. Asterisk, asterisk. It was 6 months after Mark disappeared. Late November again. Almost a full year. Mark's brother, Owen, was sitting at his kitchen table when the mail came. Most of it was junk, flyers and bills. But one envelope stood out. No return address. Postmarked from a small town in Idaho. Inside was a single piece of paper, handwritten, the letters careful and deliberate. It read, "I'm sorry. I couldn't come back. Tell Claire I'm safe. Tell her I found the truth, and it's bigger than we thought. Don't look for me. The rain knows." It was signed with Mark's initials. Owen took it to the police immediately. Handwriting analysts confirmed it. The writing was consistent with Mark's. But the ink, that was the strange part. It was fresh, not months old, not aged. It had been written recently, maybe days before it was mailed. Detective Mullins couldn't make sense of it. If Mark was alive, why reach out now? Why not come home? She started investigating the town where the letter was postmarked, a place called Ridgewood, population 800. She sent officers to check motels, diners, gas stations. They found nothing. But then, a clerk at a rural gas station came forward. He said a man matching Mark's description had come in 3 weeks earlier, during a rainstorm. He'd bought a newspaper, paid in cash, and left without saying a word. The clerk remembered because the man had looked scared, kept glancing at the door like he was expecting someone to walk in. Security footage confirmed it. The man in the video had Mark's build, his gait, his face. But he was thinner, his hair longer, a beard covering his jaw. He was alive, but he was hiding. Mullins tried to trace his movements, but the trail went cold. No credit cards, no phone records, no sightings after that gas station. It was as if he'd stepped back into the storm and disappeared all over again. Some people think Mark found something so dangerous he had to disappear to survive. Maybe David Calloway wasn't working alone. Maybe there were others, people with power, people who didn't want Naomi's case solved. Others think Mark couldn't face what he'd uncovered, the guilt of not acting sooner, the weight of knowing what happened to Naomi. Maybe he walked away to escape that burden. And some believe the rain was never just rain, that it was a symbol, a reckoning, something that washes away the guilty and the innocent alike. Claire never received a letter. She never heard from Mark again. But every November, when the rain starts, she thinks about that night. She thinks about the truck on the bridge, the open door, The sound of the storm swallowing his name. She wonders if he's out there, somewhere, watching the rain fall, or if he became part of it. Asterisk, asterisk, 58 to 0, 60 to 0 closing. Asterisk, asterisk. So what do you think happened to Mark Ellison? Did he disappear to protect himself? Or was he running from something he couldn't face? Did he find the truth about Naomi Garrison? Or did the truth find him first? Drop your theory in the comments. I read every single one, and I'm curious what you think. If you made it this far, type "still raining" below, so I know you were with me through the whole story. And if you want more mysteries like this, ones that leave you questioning everything, hit that subscribe button, because next week we're diving into another case that'll make you wonder if the past ever really stays buried. Thanks for watching. And remember, some storms